why would you even care about this, you might ask? Well, I would say, why on earth would you publish if nobody cites your work? Not publishing is a bit like being mute, but not being cited is like talking without anyone talking back. It's very much a one-way conversation. Now, I know that I've sometimes compared academics to artists, and that we're also driven by a passion to independently realize our own visions. And yes, there are artists who just care about expressing themselves. They don't care whether anyone even looks at their work. But I think even these artists would prefer it if someone engaged with their work. And it's the same with academics. Academic research should really contribute to academic discourse, and citations are simply a part of that discourse. They're a signal that other academics are talking back to you. Well, you might well say, well, I know my work is reaching students and managers and policymakers, so that means you're having an impact on teaching, or the kind of actual impact we just talked about. And both of them are really important, but these audiences are usually not our primary audience if we're publishing in academic journals. And if they were our primary audience, we would be publishing in very different outlets, and outlets that they would actually read. I can assure you that it's not common for students and those outside academia to read academic journals. So first of all, I think you should care about citations because they are a signal that your research is contributing to the academic discourse. But why exactly would you want to know whether your work is cited? Well, in a more instrumental sense, it might be important for any type of research evaluation, tenure or promotion application, or even a yearly performance appraisal. Citations are a signal that your work is recognized as being relevant by other academics, and that's important. But more importantly, citations tell you who is building on the work that you have done. And it's tremendously exciting to see how others are using your research. When you start out in academia, you're excited to publish and to see your name in print. And if you are not, I'm sure your parents might be. However, that excitement fades after a while. And personally, I was far more excited about my first citations, as they told me that people were actually reading my work and found it useful. And through reading how other people use your work, you might also get some new ideas for your research yourself. And finally, some of the people citing your work might well be future collaborators, as it's clear they're interested in your work. And as such, they might want to collaborate with you to take the research agenda forward. And on a side note, I know very well that many citations are very superficial. In fact, one of my first articles, or actually my first article in 1995, was about how referencing errors can create myths in academia. At the bottom of the slide, I've included a link to an update of that article, which has some clear referencing guidelines. However, even though many citations might be superficial, in general, citations do signal that academics are truly engaging with and building on your work. And finally, it's a nice ego boost. As I said earlier, the initial excitement about publishing fades, but most of us would really like to know whether anyone is reading our work and engaging with it, and citations are an indication of that. And yes, again, I do know that people sometimes cite your work without reading it properly, in some cases even with hilarious results, as you can read in the article that I've linked on this slide, but most of the time they will have read your work.